Hello friends, welcome to EduTap. Today I am going to discuss on a very important topic which is about how to analyze the mock test. I have seen many candidates who constantly keep on giving mock test but their scores are not increasing. Or maybe in one of the mock tests their scores suddenly become high and they are not able to know the reason. So in today's video, we are going to discuss about these aspects that how to analyze the mock test. See, first of all, before I tell you the points that how should we analyze the mock test, one point that you should definitely know is that when we analyze the mock test, it's not about how many marks we are getting, right? What I mean is that some of the mock tests might be easy, some might be tough, some might be moderate. So obviously there would be some variation in your marks. In one mock test which might be easy, you might be scoring 70, 75. In the next mock test which is really tough, you might have scored 57 or 60. But that doesn't mean that your performance is going down. In spite of your scores being going down, right, you might be performing well. So that all depends upon the difficulty level. I think you should take into account the difficulty level of the mock test while analyzing any mock test, whether you have improved or not. And I think the best metrics to gauge whether you have improved or not is the rank, right? Because rank is always relative. If you are constantly getting the same rank or you are improving, it means you are doing good. Now coming to the point, assuming that all the mock tests are of same difficulty, how to analyze a particular mock test? The answer lies in that we need to basically gauge these 4 points. That is, we need to categorize our mistakes, that is the questions that we are doing wrong or the questions that we are not attempting because we didn't know about them, should be categorized into these 4 categories. First is silly mistakes. That is, in the question it was asked which of the following is not a management technique, and you forget to read about the word not and therefore you mark the wrong answer. That's a pretty silly mistake, right? Next is you don't remember the facts data. So sometimes you are giving the mock test, you have read this thing, but you are not able to recollect the exact data, the exact fact. Therefore, you mark the answer wrong or you leave that question unattempted. Third category is that many of the questions you attempt, this is the most common category, 2 options are confusing, right? This will happen. There is no exam in which this will not happen. So this is a pretty common, and this is being human. You will in many questions be confused among 2 options. And the fourth category is that certain question in the exam or in the mock test is such that you are completely unaware of that concept. It seems to you that something has been asked out of syllabus. So my take is that you should always categorize your wrong answers or unattempted questions into these 4 categories. This is the first point, first thing you should do when you analyze any mock test. Now, how to use this data? What to do with this categorization? The answer is that the first 2 mistakes, guys, any silly mistake or any question that you did wrong or you didn't attempt just because you didn't remember the facts or the data, I think it's a sin to commit these kind of mistakes. Obviously at the start this will happen, you will commit some silly mistakes, you might not be able to remember the facts or the data, but over a period of time, by the time you would have attempted, I would say, half the mock test, in the next half mock tests, you should not be committing these mistakes. It would be a sin. You should give the last half of the mock test, whatever you have planned to give, like the real-time environment. So when you analyze the first half of your mock test, say you have planned to give 10 mock tests and you are analyzing your first 5 mock tests, these kind of mistakes should be properly analyzed. That why I am doing silly mistakes, what kind of silly mistakes I am doing, what kind of facts I am not remembering, in which subject I am not remembering, and you should try to constantly improve upon that, right? No magic will happen. It is you who would have to work, right? So my first suggestion to you is that these kind of mistakes should be carefully analyzed, should be carefully observed, and should be constantly worked upon. These can be easily worked upon, and this is the easiest thing you can do to increase your marks. Next point, confusing options. happens to everyone, and it will happen till the time you give the exams. These kind of things will happen. So whenever you get questions with confusing options, when you analyze the mock test, try to see, go back and read that portion again from your book, from your course, and try to see whether the options seemed confusing to you because you missed some keyword that was there in that book or in your course, and that's why you are not able to pinpoint the exact answer. Maybe that could be the reason. If that is the reason, then you need to find out why are you missing on those keywords. Maybe you need to read that portion again with more attention, right? This could be one of the reason. I'm not saying this is the only reason. Another reason could be sometimes the options are genuinely confusing. This happens, right? No exam is such an easy exam that every question will be easy in spite of reading everything. So some questions are genuinely confusing. They will confuse you in the language, right? So this will happen. I'm not denying the fact that this will not happen, or you may read some another 10 books to avoid this. You cannot do that. So this will happen. The idea is that if you are confused among two options, you should not leave that question unattempted, because even if you attempt say 5 to 10 questions like that, even law of probability says that you will get 50% of them correct. And here you are not just blindly guessing, you are making an intelligent guess out of those two confusing options, whatever knowledge you have gained, right? You're using that. So my expectation is that if there are say 5 to 10 questions or 10 to 15% of questions are like this, in which options are confusing, you should try to attempt them, right? At least all those questions in which only two options are confusing. If more than two options are confusing, then God helps you. So if two options are confusing, try to attempt all those questions, right? And try to have at least 60% out of them correct. This is not a big task, right? We can do that. Even if without knowing anything, if somebody tells you that answer is within these two options, you blindly guess, you will get 50% correct by law of probability. So if you have read something, you are still confused, I think if you attempt 10 questions, you should get 6 correct, and that shall be good, guys. That shall be more than good, because you cannot avoid that. But let's try to score maximum in such kind of questions. So build that knack of attempting these questions, right, in the mock test, and getting as many correct as you can, right? And the last is that something has come in the mock test, or in, right, or something is some question or some option is of that kind in the mock test, which completely seems alien to you. You have not read that concept, you have no idea about that, it is out of syllabus. Again, there is no need to create fuss about those questions, there is no need to panic. Every exam would have 5 to 10% questions like that, right? Because even exam setter has its ego. Even exam setter knows that if people start scoring 100 in the exam set by him, then obviously it will send a wrong signal. So 5 to 10% of the questions would be like this. You will have no idea about that. So I don't think you should worry about that, as long as those are just 5 to 10% of the total questions, right? Just leave those questions, or at least try to read something about those questions, because questions in the mock test are most of the times important, so they can get repeated in the main exam. So just try to get some knowledge about those questions. That's it. Don't try to read in depth about those concepts from some other books, because that could be wastage of time, right? So I think these kind of questions can be handled this way, and instead use your time on the main syllabus, which is more important, right? So that's my take on how to analyze mock test, guys, right? Just to summarize it again, first two kind of mistakes, I don't think they should be done again and again. After you have attempted enough mock tests, these kind of mistakes should be completely avoided, should completely be out of your attempts. Where two options are confusing, it will happen, you cannot avoid that. The more you practice, the more you will build that knack of attempting questions with confusing options, but do not leave these questions. My take is, if you attempt all those questions, at least 60% you will get if you would have studied seriously about these topics. Last, if you haven't read anything and questions come out of that, right, do not try to guess blindly, it will just take you towards a negative marking. And do not worry about that, that no, you are not attempting these 5-10% questions, it will happen. Just forget about them. Instead, focus on what you have already read. So thanks, guys. That was my take on analyzing the mock test. I hope it would be beneficial to some of you. This is not the only strategy. There are many other ways to analyze mock tests, but if you are not following any, at least follow this. I hope this will be beneficial for you. Thanks for now. Have a nice